Alright everyone, welcome to Street City Studio. I'm John, and in this video I wanted to talk a little bit about some of my custom figures. We took a brief look at my Hercules yesterday because I got the Marvel Universe Hercules, and it kind of inspired this video. Let me get out of here real quick. And if I hadn't pointed it out recently, right, this is a self-custom, right, if you weren't aware. This is a 3D scan I did of my own head. I 3D printed it myself, and I painted it myself. Mounted it on a Jurassic Park figure. It's a resin print, if anybody's interested in what kind of print it is. But yeah, I figured we would take a little look at some of my customs. But specifically, I thought we'd look at some of the customs in comparison to their counterparts, right? They're off-the-shelf counterparts here. And I'm a big fan of this figure, so I don't want to give the wrong impression. Right? When I got this figure, I've had this figure probably 4 times now. I've had 4 of them, I think. Used several for customs, maybe even lost or broke one. But I ended up using his body for, I was working on some medieval figures. I was playing with a lot of Boss Fight Studios medieval figures at the time, and I felt like I needed a Conan-like barbarian, and that's kind of where I ended up. I decided I needed a Conan, and so I used the Hercules body for a Conan figure, and it's a Thor head, if you don't recognize it, with Boss Fight Studios hair. Now this isn't even glued on. See, I just pop the hair on and make sure it kind of lines up good to just look like his little headband thing, right? Cover it, try and get it lined up with that top line so that it just looks like a bandana under there or whatever, not a helmet. And I covered his toes off with some green stuff or 2-part epoxy or whatever I used. Some sort of clay or something. Whatever I had at the time. Right? But I really do like this Hercules figure. But once I used his body for Conan, I had his head and his mace laying around. And I had a scar with no sword. So I thought, well, that was a good opportunity to get a really bulky Hercules, because I'm a fan of a big looking Hercules. The bigger the better, right? He can look like the Hulk. He can look Hulk sized, and that's kind of what I was going for, is something I can imagine fighting the Hulk. And let me get a Marvel Universe Hulk in here for comparison. Just to see what I mean, right? This Hercules looks like he might be able to knock this Hulk down a peg, right? But this Hercules, he's a lot. Get out of here. Get out of here, Conan. You won't stand. We won't stand for this, Conan. If you won't stand, we won't stand. All right, but this Hercules looks great. It's very classic. And now that I'm saying it, it doesn't. He does look like he could fight Hulk, but I think you get what I'm saying, right? This just looks so much. I don't want to say so much better, but that's my preferred look. Right? I like him bulky. I like a little hair on his chest, right? Some arm hair. Right? I like a little less superhero-y, more sword and sorcery, you know? A little less speedos and spandex and buckles and plates and leather. I like that. But yeah, I thought that was a good way to start this video out, right? Just comparing these guys, taking a look at what I've done to make a custom and why, maybe, you know? But then once I had this one, I definitely felt like I needed a more classic one still, right? If he's going to stand in a shot with Iron Man or an Avengers, right? This one might be more suitable. But I know, like, there's an old picture. I wish I should have looked it up before I started this video. There's an old picture, I think it's a cover, Spider-Man and Hercules breaking through a wall or something. And Hercules just looked so giant. He looked like the Hulk behind Spider-Man, you know? He looked huge. And that was kind of, I think, part of the inspiration for that. I really do like a giant looking where's my Spider-Man? I really do like a giant looking Hercules next to a Spider-Man too, right? Where these guys, there's a difference, but you know, they're comparable. This Hercules doesn't look like a giant necessarily, like a Hulk, right? But that one, he looks like a brick wall, you know. And now that I'm on a roll talking about it, I haven't mentioned it yet either. I do think I prefer the black hair. I know his hair goes back and forth and consistent. It's inconsistent in his hair color. Sometimes it's red or brown. Sometimes it's black. It just depends on who the artist is, I guess, and what their preference is. And even between these heads, I've got another one somewhere floating around. I don't know where it came from, but I've got this same head because I've got it on here. I painted his hair black, but I've got one unpainted floating around loose somewhere, and his hair is like, I've got a light hair and a dark hair. So even with these, just with the Marvel Universe figures, there was a couple variations on his hair color. Get him out of here, though. But I think we'll move on here. Get them off to the side. We can move right on to my next one. It's going to be Nightcrawler. Now that's not the custom, but that's the standard Marvel Universe figure. And there's kind of my lazy guy. Movie Nightcrawler. On a Loki body there. He's on a Loki body just because it had that kind of patched together-y look to me. I threw a jacket over it. But you can see I just pulled the hands and feet and tail off of him, and head off of Marvel Universe Nightcrawler. There's a tail right there. Give it a little paint to make its colors more movie accurate. But I was a big fan when I made this. I made this years and years ago now, but I was a big fan of that Alan Cummins Nightcrawler. And I just heard he's coming back with Toad. There we go, with that Ray Park Toad coming back. I'm real excited about these. I think some of these Marvel movies, bringing the X-Men in, about to introduce Wolverine in a costume and right, a more accurate Beast. And I can't wait to see some of these more accurate costumes. I can't wait to see an MCU Wolverine, MCU Sabertooth. Right? What's the MCU version gonna look like? That's exciting. But until then, this is kind of my movie Nightcrawler, right? And I do like this figure. I wish it was a little more posable. But it is a good-looking classic Nightcrawler. And I guess keeping with that movie X-Men theme, we'll move right into Beast 2. If you've been watching, you've heard me say I don't necessarily prefer cat face Beast here. That is not my preferred version of Beast. But it is not the only Beast figure I have either. I did this custom quite a while back, just like that Nightcrawler. And my biggest criticism of this one is really just, I hate that he has 3 fingers. But you know, it's this figure's fault. I don't know why he only has 3 fingers. And I thought about giving him a hand swap. If I find the right hands, I probably will. But until then, he's just going to have to deal with the 3 fingers. But here's my Kelsey Grammer Beast. And now this is probably one of my top 10 favorite customs that I've done, just because I'm a big fan of Beast and Kelsey Grammer as Beast. But this was kind of an ambitious custom. This was one of my early customs, and basically it's a kit bash of the Marvel Legends movie Beast with one of these stinky faced cat face Beast, right? And it's his vest. I split the vest right down the middle here, and took a little chunk out, and then glued it back together and painted it. It's fairly seamless. I mean, there's a little seam, but it's not super distracting or ugly. And it kind of blends in with the other seams going on already, you know. But, yeah, the coat fit perfect otherwise. It's not as tight like he mentions in the movie, maybe. But, it's one of my favorite figures. I love this figure. The head fit, you would think the head would be the wrong scale or look out of scale, but it really doesn't. I feel like he's gonna fall over though. That's another problem with this Beast figure, I guess. I said my biggest complaint, but another complaint is that this figure doesn't. Neither of them. It's the design. Neither of these beasts like to stand up for very long. if he doesn't have something to brace against, or if he doesn't have a figure stand, he's probably going to fall over. And actually, maybe it's because he has the articulated toes. Not a lot of these figures have articulated toes. But that's one of the things I like about the figure. Even though that might not help him stand much. As soon as I grab my coffee cup in one hand, then he won't stand. Set that back down, huh? Let's see. Maybe. There we go. All right. Oh, he's up there. Alright, next up, let's get these guys out of there. Next up, we will jump into Juggernaut. Alright. There's my movie Juggernaut. And now, he's very similar to Beast, right? I was doing a lot of scale bashing back then, I guess. This is the Marvel Legends Beast, Juggernaut, the Marvel Legends movie Juggernaut, that I scale bashed by trimming his legs. I trimmed the top of his legs and the bottom of his legs. And it definitely, he lost some leg mobility. And he kind of stays in this squat position, but he still, right, he can crouch out and do a charge, right? He can still has his full range of everything else, basically. And it's just this kind of squat in his hips that's funny now because there's so much glue in there just holding everything, and he has kind of a wiggle in there, but not much. Basically, he has the left to right, but not the front to back on that ball because of that. The centerpiece is locked. Right? But otherwise, it's functionally, it's still there, right? He still has ankle twists all the way around, right? His knees still work. But I kind of highlighted him already, so I didn't want to spend too much time on him. I know I've showed him already a little bit. But just to kind of include him, since that's what we're talking about, right? Showing them next to their Marvel Universe counterparts and taking a look at them all. Right? I wouldn't mind some better figures, right? A better Juggernaut, because he isn't perfect. But that's what I got for now. I'm not terribly disappointed with him. I'll move right on into the next scale dash here. And this one, this Sabertooth, is another scale bash. And this one's a little more complicated and involved, I guess. But the head and the fur piece is off the snow-covered Sabertooth, I believe. Right, the one with the hard face, not that soft, rubbery face. Yeah. And so basically I just repainted. I pulled the fur off, repainted the head and fur. I think the coat, I think that's from a Metal Gear Solid Revolver Ocelot figure. And the figure is a highly modified Thomas Jane Punisher. I think I modified his legs for some height to shorten him a bit. And kind of sculpted a rough-looking collary piece on his shirt. But I liked the hand articulation. He's pretty posable. And it leaves him pretty big, you know. He's even obviously bigger than that Marvel Universe Sabertooth. And even we can bring in Hulk, and you can see he's still about on par with the Hulk, maybe even a little taller, maybe a little skinnier, right? Maybe drop the Juggernaut in there for comparability too, you know? Where's a beast? There's a beast. So he is a little big maybe, but he's supposed to be big. And that was the beauty of Tyler Maine's Sabertooth, was he was just so big. Even you bring in like big old Hercules, he still looks big. And just like my Juggernaut, maybe he's not perfect, I guess. I'm sure somebody could come in there and criticize him, say, man, that looks like junk. But I like having a Tyler Maine Sabertooth for my Wolverine to fight. And actually, I didn't even pull him out, did I? I didn't pull Wolverine out at all, because he's got some custom sideburns or whatever, but he's not really a custom figure. I don't really consider him any kind of full custom. But right, you can get the point. He's a little big. He definitely is. But he's smaller than the Marvel Legends, that's for sure. Like I said, he's just a little taller than the big guys. Not even much. And I keep him kind of crouched out too. If I straighten his knees out, he'd be a little taller. But that's part of the reason too. He doesn't need to be standing upright either, though. He's kind of usually a attack pose kind of guy. Right? But I don't hate it. I wish he was a little smaller, maybe. I could probably go back and retouch some of his paint. This probably a 7-year-old paint job or 8-year-old paint job now, so some of these older paint jobs start chipping and wearing and looking. But not even just that, I've gotten better as a painter. That can make a lot of a difference too. But sometimes it's hard to go back and redo your own work, even if you see things you could do better. That's your work. Or my, I look at it and think about work I did 10 years ago or whatever. We were moving on. We'll go with last up. Last up is Punisher. We got my John Bernthal Punisher. He's got the guns mounted back there. The knife from a Punisher figure. I'm pretty sure. Pretty sure, yeah. Yeah, I had scouted those just because they were from a Punisher figure. I was like, oh, I'll include those. Working holster there. And it's not perfect. Again, I could probably do a little better these days, maybe. But the head isn't bad. I'm trying to remember whose head that was. Can't remember. It was a G.I. Joe head, I think, maybe. I don't know. I just saw it, and I was like, that's the right head. That'll work. No, that's not terrible. Maybe not the best, but I appreciate you guys joining me. Appreciate you hanging out. I think that'll about do it. If you want to check out my Facebook, John Wayna, Wayna. That's my Facebook. If you want to check out my Instagram, my photography on Instagram is Street City Toys. Not Street City Studio like the channel, but Street City Toys. But otherwise, you guys have yourselves a good afternoon. I appreciate you coming by. Keep playing with them toys, and I'll talk to you again real soon.